Hello, my friends. We are back. Hello, Daisy. Hello, Darren. Welcome back. It's good to see
Hello,
you
hello.
guys. Hi, how's your week?
Good,
Yeah,
good week. Busy week, short week, right?
I know. Yeah, yeah, a long weekend was nice for sure. Well, I'm glad to be back with the both of you. It's very exciting to see you again. And we are back for Demystifying AI, why humans are still valuable. At the end of last week, we had this really great conversation around, started talking about isolation versus connection in the AI era. And what does that mean? And Darren, that was a phrase really you introduced me to. And so for today, I want to set the stage around a few different things, right? Is AI really connecting us, or is it just adding noise to the conversation? And are we struggling?
Mhm.
What happens when leaders choose their tools before their teams are really ready? And that's for a lot of different reasons. We can dig into that. Daisy, what about brands being bots? Right? I know that you've talked to me about that, and how do we deal with that? What does that mean? And when do humans feel left out? Right? We talked in the very beginning, and kind of the way we started the conversation was, are jobs going away? Right? Are we disappearing? And we all believe that that's not the case. And I listened to a podcast today that we'll definitely talk about in the future that KPMG says absolutely not going to happen. So they're very excited about where we're going and what's happening. So I wanted to do that. I'll quickly introduce myself to those of you who don't know who I am, and I want to thank you for joining our episode 5. We're here on LinkedIn Live and can also be streamed on YouTube. I'm Shara Halixer. I'm the founder and chief momentum officer of Engage 3P. I have spent my career only around humans. I started my career doing labor and employment work and HR and change management, and I went into recruiting, and then I got into HR tech. So it's always been around the people. And so I founded Engage 3P to help companies understand where are they leaving their people and their money on the table, not being prepared for the big changes that are coming. And so I'm very excited to work with companies to help them understand what that is and how they can make sure that they're doing the right thing. Daisy?
Hi, everybody. Daisy Watkins, founder of DW Concept, also LumaPath.ai. My background is really in healthcare space of similar crossover, some crossovers from Shira, more on the recruitment side, started from general staffing to healthcare staffing, which is the last bit. Former CEO of a healthcare staffing organization, built a first year for $10 million. Now I've entered the the marketing space, more in the AI strategy branding niche. And we do have what I do is I help companies be found by AI. Really, things are changing in the marketing world, how we need to be seen and how we need to represent ourselves to humans, basically. That's what I do. And I want to say hello to everybody that said hello on the chat, to Suzanne and Jesse. So, Darren, leave it up to you.
Well, we're launching Apex Advisory. So I share. I think what you'd like to know is that I'm going to be start working with the SIs. So
Yeah.
we have been kind of under wraps. Obviously, author of Apex 8, I've kind of created that. I've built a few platforms out there, sales track, blah, blah, blah. But I think what's really kind of landed is the whole independent software vendor piece is going on. So what I'm doing now, starting today, actually, is RevOps officer for the system integrators. But we're not talking about the big ones. No. Share those are your buddies. I'm talking about the small and the medium. So we're working with the kind of the scrappy AI. Now that AI is here, I think I can keep up with the big boys. And that's what Apex Advisory is all about. So we're having a lot of fun doing that. A lot of conversations this week with people that are like, that know that AI can give, a small business a huge leg up. And so I'm just teaching them how to do that. That's what I'm doing, guys. I'm having
That's
fun.
really exciting. Can we see the
Yeah.
book? Can you show us the
Yeah,
book?
your book. Oh,
The
I have
book?
to show my book.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't
you
have
show yours. There you go. I'm still waiting for mine.
that's my book.
Guys,
Yeah.
they're
If you
big
guys
print,
want
so you
guys
can
want
read
to
it fast.
check it out, yeah. If you guys want to check out the book, it's cool. But Apex Advisory is really where the money's going to be for everybody. So learn the book, buy it, but we've got a whole program built around that book.
Yeah.
really awesome. It's freaking, we're
That's
having a lot of fun
exciting.
playing with it.
That's fantastic. I love it. Well,
Yeah.
let's kick this off. Kind of talking about the ripple effect of new tech, right? What's happening? And I'm curious from your experience, right? What is the biggest way that AI adoption has been isolating employees that you've seen? What is the ripple effect of this really rapid technology that's coming in, into our workplace, into our lives? How is it isolating them, if it is, if you see that, or how is it connecting them? And do you have an example of maybe in your own life where that's happened in the last week?
I mean, Days, you want to talk to that? Or?
No, you can start, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's something about AI that happens, and I'm seeing it. I've been seeing it for a couple of years now, but it's really starting to kick in now. Where when an individual finds AI and actually cognites on the power of what they're playing with, it's not as great as everybody said, and it's not as good as everybody said, but it's definitely something that they need. When that happens, all kinds of things start to happen. A bit of a euphoria starts to happen. You start to think you're Superman and that you can walk through walls and you can jump, buildings in a single bound. And I've been through it. I know Daisy's been through it. And you have to come down to a reality of you're starting to get into AI isolation, meaning you start to overcreate, you start to innovate, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. And so what I had to do, and I had to start telling my family this as well, is just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And unfortunately, AI will give you a bit of a euphoria, and you will get yourself into, I don't know, for lack of a better term, a bit of a loop. And you can start to, your family's going to start going, when was the last time you took a shower? When was the last time dude, what are you doing? Right. So for me personally, it's like, it was a few months ago, but it was like, yeah, AI isolation is a real thing, and I can overcreate, and I was definitely overcreating.
I totally agree with Darren. We call it the wall of fire because you go through all these layers of discovering AI and discovering yourself actually in the process. That's my big takeaway from that. And by what I mean by discovering myself, discovering how I utilize AI and where I'm overutilizing AI, even though we have the brain, right, to come up with all these things, and your brain just AI keeps feeding it more information for you to be pumped up and go, okay, now let's take it to the next level. But you have to really slow down because just like life, we can only accomplish one thing at a time. We get so excited because we're overachievers, this group anyway, that I know of, that we want to go next, right? And it's true. Our personality is also showing up on over reliance to AI, because then you think you're speeding things up, but you can only action so much also in the time of day that you have. So that's my big takeaway from that. And so when I was going through something similar that Darren was going through, I said to myself one day, let me go out to a marketing event. Let's see what's actually going on in the real world. You know what? I felt kind of weird. My headspace was, I'm talking to people right now. It's not like I was crazy, but the experience was like almost like not really out of body, but it's like, oh, wow, I got to engage, and now I got to talk about what I've been doing. So it's kind of, you got to really interact with people and have that connection. Anyway, lessons learned from that is like, oh my God, I got to get out more, not really get out more in a way where I don't get out, but I got to talk to more people that actually exchange words, as opposed to AI can answer a lot of your questions. You can create it to answer your questions and come up with an answer that you probably want to see, right? And so I don't want people to rely on that too much. Your brain and the connection and the actual dialogue is critical with another human being. Anyway, another deep story is like I had an employee that literally, as soon as he discovered AI, thinks he can solve all the world problems. He wanted to tackle every little thing similar to what we went through, to the point where he actually realized that he was starting to talk to himself and people were starting to look at him funny. Relationships were affecting him. He just started to get engaged and he lost interest in the world that he was in. He got involved in this, that he recognized that he needed to institutionalize himself just to get help and to kind of get out of that space. So it's a work in progress, but it does happen. You're not hearing about it. People probably just go on the deep end, but this is through experience. I'm hearing this more, and from experience, I have somebody personally that I know that went through that. So
well, we certainly hope he's okay. We have a LinkedIn user who just made the same comment. It's really brilliant, right? It says the ripple effect that this person is seeing isn't just isolation, it's disorientation, right? We've talked about it amongst ourselves. We might have mentioned it here. I sometimes find myself screaming at some of my agents when they don't give me what I want. We find that it's responding. And, I was thinking about this earlier today. How much of all of this connects from COVID, right? Being physically isolated within COVID, coming out of COVID and starting to get back into the real world, so to speak, starting to engage with people again, be involved with people again. And now this is bringing us back in. It allows for isolation. All three of us work from home, right? And so to your point, Daisy, we need to force ourselves to go out. We can talk to people, we can chat to people, we can email with people, but we have to force ourselves to get out there, because I think what AI does, I say it all the time. I find myself, because Darren, you taught me to talk to it, don't type, right? Which is great. I love it. It opens my mind to flow in ways that it wouldn't, right? When I'm listening to a podcast or I'm out doing something and I have a thought, I grab my phone and start talking to it. But then it does dissociate me a bit. I think of it as a person. I think of it as a colleague, as somebody who it's not, right? It really isn't. And so I think it's so interesting the way that it's kind of stepped into this void of kind of how we're engaged. There's no way to know, had it not been for COVID, would this have all still been happening? But I think for so many of us, we're still working from home, if not all the time, part of the time. And I think that definitely has an impact for sure. I'd love to know from the audience if there's anyone else that has an experience as well. What do you think, Darren?
Well, I mean, I think everything we're talking about is kind of, I see it as like a pendulum, right? Because, when all of us get together and when we head out, and Daisy definitely was one of the people that said, Darren, you got to get out, you got to go out. And then I started spending time with Kiritsu Group and everybody else. And I started realizing that there were a lot of people out there that have no idea what AI is about. So you went from one extreme to another, right? I'm sitting here in my office thinking everybody's doing this, everybody's going this direction. And I'm sure they all see it. And I was speaking in generalities, and then I go out and then it's like, well, yeah, I don't even have a ChatGPT account. Like, oh, okay. So now that's the reality check. But that pendulum just kind of comes back to, look, for those of you that are so busy, you don't have time to learn AI. I want you to get into it. For those of you that are in too far into it, I want you to go back the other way. Just got to find the Goldilocks space with AI. You really do. You got to find the Goldilocks space, because as a good colleague of mine said, you definitely, no matter what, at the end of the day, you got to know how to manage this thing. And so everybody, to Daisy always brings up, everybody's sweet spot with AI will be found. Not everybody's going to be like us. They're just not.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to be like the guy that doesn't care. He puts his head in the sand. But it's going to be that, employers and clients are going to be looking at me and you and everybody else going, but what have you mastered from it? It's like a college degree. Like, how did you get through college? Did it take you 8 years or 2? It's going to be some sort of assessment about how well you manage AI in your life. So get in the Goldilocks zone of AI, and life's good.
It's pretty exciting. It made me think of something. I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I'll say, when AOL came out and I got my color monitor, I'm like old, and I sat down on my dial-up modem in my bedroom, I was a teenager, and I think I was online all night long. All night. I don't think I went to sleep. I was so blown away by the fact that there were other people around the world that I could have a conversation, that I could chat to, the information that was available. It was mind-blowing, right? And I think we're seeing some of that now. We're seeing this for many people, this, oh my gosh, look what I can do that I couldn't do before, right? How do I research differently? How do I write differently? How do I market differently, Daisy? So, let's talk about that, right? marketing automation, right, is now the thing. Is that fair to say? And so is it helping companies? Is it alienating customers in some way? Like, what are you seeing in that automation and that AI aspect of it in terms of how that's changing now?
It's changing huge. You're getting a lot more bots to answer your question, and that's what AI, when it first came out, efficiency. How do you get your time back instead of answering the same questions over and over again, right? There is a space and use for it. So the core message really from me and how I look at it is that AI is a tool for connection, not isolation. Now, when leaders now intentionally design its implementation, it should enhance the human value as well. So I'll break that down a little bit more. But what you'll see is that uh, you use it, meaning that from my perspective, a perfect example of how this happens is that in healthcare staffing in the old days, placing a professional with a high touch manual process, then you knew about the nurse, you knew about the hospital, you made it a personal connection, right?
Okay.
Now, at that scale, we are seeing the early signs of digital platforms managing all these filters, right, to get to the candidate that has the matching data points, right? And so I think we talked about this really briefly. So where is now your connection to understand, do they have the right temperament for bedside manner to be a nurse? Do they have the temperament on how they deal with situations? You can ask those questions and they can get a canned answer for that, but there's nothing more than asking a nurse, okay, so give me an example of how you dealt with a very difficult patient and a situation you had at the hospital. Those are things that they learned or you can speak to with experience, but cannot be done through data or filters through your systems. So there's a fine point on understanding where you still need to have the human touch. Yes, you can make it efficient and source the resumes or the CVs, but you still have to have that conversation is what I'm trying to say. Make things efficient and effective, but also look for those things, or perhaps ask a question within your systems that addresses 2 or 3 things that speaks to the human part, and you'll get a sense of that, but then follow it up with a conversation. So that's my take on making sure that you're not isolating using your systems to rely on it heavily, but also have that human touch. There's a couple other ways on how you use automation is that you're also alienating your customers that want that human conversation. How many times have you yelled on the phone? No, I just want customer service. Yes, I heard the answer, but I still want to have a follow-up question. Why can't I get there?
Yes. Yes.
So
representative.
Zero, right?
Yeah.
Representative.
It's talking to a bot. And so you can't hear that, right? You might see some of it might record it, and you might get a recording like, I hate this, you probably, that's what you're going to get. So listen to those. You yourself as a human being, what frustrates you when they can't get to a human being? So there's a balance. You just have to find it. Yes, repetitive questions can be answered, but some humans have additional questions. So how do you bridge that gap? How do you make your technology work for you where they instantaneously get an answer from a human? So those are the things. So it's not isolating. How do you process it? How do you implement it the way that it should, and the way where the human doesn't lose touch, that you are still servicing them.
So Darren, taking it from the marketing side, right, with Daisy, to then the sales side, right? What are you seeing in the sales process? How are AI platforms changing the sales process, and what can be done to ensure that, again, there's that human connection? Because guess what? You're not selling to a bot. You're not selling to a company. You're selling to a human. Ultimately, a person's got to make the decision.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure, emotions are what gets things done, right? And without that, you've got a problem. And so we're spending a lot of time with different companies, different consulting engagements now. Lots of MSPs, lots of SIs, lots of independent software vendors out there. They're all exploding, right? Again, AI is empowering people to be brave and go out on their own. And so we're seeing this big trend. But the interesting thing is that we were talking about the pendulum, over rotation. Just keep it really simple. Use AI a little bit at a time, because if you think about how we all got into tech in the sales game, here's how it started, right? The very first thing that we did was we used to have spreadsheets. So for those of you who've been around a while and used to sell, this is kind of the wisdom of being who we are. But the bottom line is that they used to hand out spreadsheets. It is a table. And if you think about that, it's pretty amazing. It's like, okay, here's your call sheet. Call these people. Go find somebody that wants to buy something you want to sell. Then we had CRM systems come out, and it was very swivel chair. If you remember, then we got our own version of Office. Then we got our own swivel chair process where we went between CRM and the swivel, the spreadsheet. And we kept track of sales that way. And then it just grew bigger. Now we have AI here that's actually breaking it down again, meaning that we have lots of people, lots of salespeople using different sales apps or not at all. And they're either having it handed to them by their bosses, and it's not personalized enough for their sales style. And what do? They go out and now can get any AI tool that will flex and allow for hyper sales personalization, meaning you all sell a certain way. Those of you who have been around a while, 5 years, that's all about you need to get a pattern. When you go to sell, you're going to want your own style, your own tool, your own way to do it. And as far as, being isolated, salespeople can easily start to become over-reliant on their AI. They can start to become over-reliant on their tools, and they start to become irrelevant in the conversation. What do I mean by that? If you have a robocaller and it's calling, and let's say it does a good job. I mean, I am placing those with my clients now. So they are using AI voice. I am training them using the foundation of Apex 8. That's exactly what we're doing, right? Yeah. It's very deep. It's very cerebral. Instead of training salespeople, I'm training agents how to sell. But the worry we have is that we've got to then pick up that first human contact, which means that when you go into your first call, after the robocaller has set you up an appointment, you've got to now follow the rules of Apex 8. Do a little bit of discovery before you get on the phone. If not, you're going to feel isolated, meaning you're going to feel like you're out of the loop to the customer. They will feel it instantly. So this whole isolation thing is interesting. You guys were talking about representative. They don't like robocallers. No. But a lot of the companies want to use the robocallers because they think that robocaller's human. Yes, but there's a caveat there, guys. I've got to train it. I've got to teach you how to make it sound as human as possible. And I've got to teach you how to say it a certain way. There are certain tricks to it. For example, you can teach AI to be authentic, meaning, hi, I'm an AI agent. I know you probably don't like me, but give me 2 seconds, please.
Right.
You have to train a robocaller a particular way. And then you got to train the salespeople how to come in after that.
Right.
Because there's a whole technique to it. Because you used to do that before. And believe it or not, even when you were doing the cold calling and you hated it, and you hated it, and you hated it. I get it. But when you looked it up, you did a little bit of discovery, you dialed the phone, you knew something about that person, and you took a shot. And then if they bit, you rolled right into it. When it comes in cold, when you're isolated from the business development side, you're coming in cold. So be prepared to train your brain a little bit differently in that the thing you've always asked for is now here, but be careful what you ask for because you're going to go into a lot of first calls that you're cold on, but the system is not. And that's a difference.
You're talking about, again, the things that we keep coming back to, which is authenticity. I think I told the story on a prior episode, all of which can be found here on LinkedIn or on YouTube. And the power of authenticity cannot be spoken enough. When I first got into software solutioning and I had to demo software, I had a boss, lovely woman, was training me and would say to me, you need to do it this way. You need to, and she wanted me to do it exactly the way she did it. And session after session after session, I was beating my head up against a wall. I couldn't do it. I couldn't remember what she was saying. It wasn't connecting for me. I wasn't being authentic. I was trying to be her. And the moment I let go of that, The moment I figured out who I was, how I needed to communicate, how I was going to connect to people in the room or on the phone or on the Zoom or whatever, Teams, I think we use. The minute that happened, it all changed for me. And you've seen me in the room. I mean, always tell this funny story that I was once at in the UK. I was in the UK doing a demo. It'd been the third or fourth meeting, and the chief people officer said to me, "Listen, Shara, because I'm also a value engineer, so I built the business case, and we had all these meetings, and it was really terrific." And he said, "Listen, I think we need to see the software." And I said, "Jonathan, what are you talking about? You've seen the software." He said, "No, we've never seen it. We love what you've done. We love you. We love the messaging. We love everything you said it can do, but we need to see the software." I said, "Okay, great. Let's do a meeting. We'll do the software." And I walk in the room and I set up the computer and my back is to the screen. And he's sitting in front of me and a couple other people are on the other side. And I'm not looking at it. I'm looking at my laptop. And I have two colleagues with me. And we do the meeting and I'm demoing the software and we're talking about all the things that they need and all the things they want and all the things that drive value for what this company needed. And we finished and I closed my laptop and we said our goodbyes and we said, "We'll see you at dinner in a couple of hours." And we hugged and walked out of the room. And when we got back, my colleagues and I got back to the hotel, they walked up to me with a gin and tonic and said, "That was unbelievable." And I said, "Yeah, it was a really good meeting, wasn't it?" He said, "It was unbelievable. You never showed him any software." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "There was nothing on the screen." I said, "What?" They said, "There was nothing on the screen. It wasn't projecting anything." Now, nobody said anything. I didn't know. My back was to the screen. But I walked them through it. They bought the software. That's authenticity. That's relationship, right? That isn't something a bot's going to do. That's not something a fake video is going to do, right? It took months to build that relationship. And ultimately it was about trust. So if we're not being authentic in the way we present, in the way that we communicate, to your point, Darren, you say, "Hey, the bot says, 'Hi, I'm a bot. I'm an AI agent. I'm not real.' I might listen a little more if it's interesting."
Mhm. So good point, Shira. It is really changing. Again, we keep going back, right? The trust factor is what really matters. No matter what the situation is, we're going back to how do they trust you, and how do they see that they can trust you? Again, it's from your experience. They were going blind with what, there's nothing in your background, but they trusted your expertise. They trusted your examples. They trusted you. As again, it's human beings. So in your space, Shira, let me ask you,
Sure.
what have you seen? Like, how do leaders spot when automation is making employees mere part of the organization, or just being sidelined so that they can be freed up? Like, what have you seen in that space?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So as companies get more and more excited about implementing AI because they think it's going to create so much more opportunity, and I would assert that what it's going to do is it's going to make the best performers even more phenomenal. And it's going to make the performers that maybe are struggling, give them tools to not necessarily struggle in those areas, right? It's nothing but opportunity for people to really shine and to free up time for them to do more, to get deeper into things, to get stronger in certain areas. I think it is a win-win across the board. For leaders, they have to decide a couple of things, right? Really be prepared, which is what we work with them to do. How are you really prepared to do the change, to make sure the adoption is what you want it to be, to make sure people are trained effectively, to make sure to ensure that there is constant feedback and conversation and education and all the things that are necessary to drive that success. It's like any other thing that we implement, right? Over the years, I've been involved in one way or another with, gosh, I don't even know, over 100 different software implementations, maybe more. And everybody's excited at the beginning. It's a new toy, right? It's the shiny new ball. We're all excited to try something new. And there's frustration. There's, how is it going to work? What is it going to do for me? So making sure that there's a lot of great communication and that there's a game plan. What is the reason to do this? Communicate with the organization why this is going to be valuable. There's an inherent thing about being human. When things change, and Darren, what you said earlier is so true. You assume that everybody's in AI, everybody's excited about it because that's your world, right? when we're in organizations and something's changing, we assume what does that do to me? What are you doing to my cheese? All right. And so leadership has an obligation to be sure that they're communicating effectively why it's being done, what it's going to deliver, why it's going to be important. And that's what I help them do. And when that's the case, when we know more, we do more. We're more engaged. I used to say all the time, I love to always answer my own questions because I get the answer I want. Now, the problem with that is it may not be the answer my boss wants. But that's what we need to do to ensure that we're getting that information out there and have that game plan.
Excellent.
Right? It's so important.
It is. And I think, from a RevOps point of view, Days, I mean, it's interesting that I have all of these builders, founders, investors, private equity, VC, right? That's just my whole orbit right now.
Right.
And I've also got these small, these small businesses, these system integrators and the VARs and all these people. They're all trying to do the same thing. They're trying to figure out how to harness AI. But Days, what you've been spending months talking to me about and others is you guys are just one drop in the ocean and nobody knows where you are. Like, how do they find this? Now, what came up the other day is I have a gentleman that has, I don't know, he's probably raised about $2 million into, I'll just call it a nutraceutical, right? And they've come to me and nutraceuticals, like a nutrition, pharmaceutical, nutraceuticals, health food, health products, right? And you've got peptides out there. You've got different, ketones, all these things. These are all the nutraceuticals, the alternatives to the pharmaceutical world. And they're rather popular. But the thing that came across my desk, Days, is like, look, we're frustrated. We're doing social media. We're doing all of these things. We're doing all these AI automated things of the old way to do things. And I said, well, you are aware that AI is now a social tool. And the executive, the CEO, was like, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's another thing. AI as a friend for a lot of people. And especially when you talk about somebody that's into health and somebody that is into biochemistry and science and everything else, odds are they're probably going to be into some version of AI. And when they go to find their next peptide to buy, or when they see an advertisement, they're going to go to their trusted advisor, which is their AI that they've kind of paid for, and it's theirs to some degree or another. And they're going to ask about your peptide. And are you going to be there when they ask? And he's like, oh, you're right. I said, yes, the whole social construct is completely changed. And AEO, answer engine optimization, if you don't start understanding what this is, and I do, by the way, as your RevOps person, I do understand it. I said, you're going to have to start thinking differently. And we've only had our first meeting, but the point is that he was like, I thought you were going to come to me with a template. I said, templates are gone. I said, people are going to say, I am hurting. What do I need to do to fix it? And they're not going to go to TikTok. Some of the young people will, but the young people are starting to figure out from TikTok how to use AI, and they're starting to use it all the time. So, the funny thing is when we look at AI, it really does have its main sources of training. It is OpenAI. It is Gemini. It is Grok. It is Microsoft. It is AWS's Claude. Everybody else, just so you guys all know from an architecture standpoint, they're all tapping into the same LLMs. They're all tapping into the same train. So what Daisy's teaching me is that if you don't get into that core LLM and your product isn't there, holy smokes. Yeah. You're not even in the social fabric anymore. You can run all the ads you want. If you're not in the conversation, Sherry, you're always saying, get in the conversation. Well, there's a conversation going between AI and the customer and the buyer, and you're not even in it. So do you show up? Can you be found? And then my job is to, once you're found, can you get the signature? but it all starts with being found, and it's part of the social fabric. And I was like, this is so much fun. It's incredible. It's amazing.
I love all of this, and I want to ask our audience if anyone is willing to put it in there. Do you have an experience? Does anyone have an experience of AI friction in the last week or so, right? Where has AI kind of bubbled up in a frustrating way? I mentioned to you guys when we talked earlier this week that I was yelling at my GPT again because I wouldn't do something I asked it to do the way I wanted it to be done. And so now I've gotten to the point that I just turn it off. I just close it, just walk away because I can't. Or I'll switch to another one, or I'll do something. But I'd really love to know what other people are dealing with. Because I want to make sure it's just not me. I would like to know it's just not me. But where others seeing some challenges? Because I think Darren, when we talk about sales, right? Let's be real. Let's be authentic here. We're all selling. Everybody's always selling. We're selling a service, we're selling a product, we're selling something, we're selling ourselves, right? Whatever it is, we're always selling something every minute of our day. And business is selling. I don't know a business that doesn't sell. I can't think of one, right?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you. The thing is that, I was in Seattle and Dan and a couple guys were looking at the book at Apex 8 and they're like, we really like this book. This book is really good. This book is not your average sales book. I said, well, it's a persuasion book. So I tried to drive that point home. But then Dan said to me, he owns multiple companies and blah, 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 very successful. And he said, but Darren, you're the signature guy. This book teaches people how to get the signature. He said, what's the difference between marketing and sales?
Right.
I said, it's the deal. But he said, what it is really the signature. And I said, okay, you're right. It's absolutely the signature. So when you say that people are all salespeople, let's just break this down to you if you're the signature person. If you have to go in front of a board right now, this week, and get approval for $2 million of an AI project, you're going to have to sell the board. If you're an HR and you want to go get a new AI tool, you're going to have to go sell your boss that they can approve the budget. So everybody is part of that game. But the persuasion game is all human. And the persuasion tools, yeah, there's a lot of AI in there. But my encouragement to you is to be careful of sales automation, because it goes back to everything you ladies have been talking about this today, is you will isolate your customer from you if you over automate this sales process.
So are you talking about, and tell me if this is the same thing, you mentioned to me, and I may have gotten this confused, the dark AI phenomenon, is that what you're talking about, or is that something different?
Dark AI is very similar in that people want to have these tools, but their companies aren't giving it to them.
Oh, how does that work? What are they doing?
That works because they are at work. They have a laptop that's been given to them or whatever, and they sign up for their own ChatGPT account, and they sign up for their own Gemini account, and they start, hey, can you help me with my report? Hey, can you help me find a better vendor? Hey, can you help me fill in the blank? And they start using it. And I've talked to executives and I've asked them, or they've told me that they know that up to 40 to 50% of their people are using dark AI, meaning they see them going to the URLs. They know they're in there for 4 hours. It doesn't take a genius to figure out they are now doing dark AI.
So there's two issues there, right? Many issues there. There's a CIO or CTO that hasn't done the work and the legwork to ensure that people are using the URLs or not having access to URLs they don't want them to have access to. I would hope that companies know that they can limit that on devices that they're giving to their employees, right? So there's some training there maybe. I think there's also, we've talked about this in the very beginning, the whole thing from an HR perspective and from a tech perspective or an IT perspective of having rules, having process around any technology that's being delivered, right? And then the other thing that comes to mind, and there's probably more, but the other thing that comes to mind for me is when you talk about data leakage, right? If I'm on a computer that belongs to a business and I'm loading information into a GPT, who owns that data now?
Well,
If
You
it's
know, we can get
proprietary,
on, we can get on that on another day, and we probably get a good
yeah,
guest on here that could talk about that. But the reality of it is that from a sales standpoint, what people are doing to shut down dark AI is they're blocking URLs,
sure.
but they don't have a substitute for it. And that is a big mistake, right?
Right.
So I understand the CTO says shut it down because of leakage. I get it. But you also just cut your salespeople off at the knee. Then you show up with a lame product that you decided in an ivory tower and you didn't include your salespeople and they don't use it. And then you wonder why your sales are down.
Well, that goes into the whole preparation thing, right? If we're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
preparing effectively for technology,
it has to do with getting in the game, right?
right?
Look, you guys, listen, I get it. You guys all have something to do. The hype cycle tells you to come do it. Listen, I've already done it. We've already done it out here. Just start partnering up with people that are AI native consultants.
Right.
Literally, start a conversation. Do an assessment form. Start doing things, because I'm telling you, there are companies that I'm walking into that haven't had, they've shut down all the dark AI. They've isolated themselves from AI is what has
Right.
happened here. And they don't have a plan. They're waiting for some test pilot to come. And meanwhile, sales are meh. There are other companies that are coming in going, all right, what do we do? A, B, and C. How do we get going today on AI? Talk about it, have a plan, get everybody in the room and just get going. Like you said, you're on the human capital side. If you don't want isolation because of AI, that's what you're creating.
Right.
When you shut everybody off, get everybody in the room, get the communication going, have a meeting, dare I say, don't even do it on video. Get everybody together and go, how are we going to use AI in the right places and how are we going to not? And start figuring out how you're going to bring it into your revenue piece. Because sales is the tip of the spear. Nothing else will happen. Nothing else will happen unless you start figuring out how to get AI to help you grow your business through more signatures, more orders, more services delivered.
So we dump sales and marketing together, like companies, and I'm going to go down a tiny rabbit hole, dump learning and development together. You hear that all the time. Sales and marketing, learning and development. Guess what? Sales and marketing are two completely different things. Learning and development are two completely different things, right? And I won't go down the learning and development thing now because that's not why we're here. But Daisy, the same holds true, right? If for small business owners, for new business owners, for anyone who's looking to market their business, big or small, right? You and I talked about this yesterday, right? I'm marketing my business out there. Like you said earlier, I'm doing the right things. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm trying to figure out the ways to get myself out there. What is AI offering to me? What are the tools that I can use that are going to enhance but not dilute what I'm trying to do, right? Where and how do I ensure that I'm getting that relationship with an audience when I'm marketing? What is AI going to do to help me? Or what is the benefit of it?
Oh, there's a lot of benefits to AI and how you use it. And like you said, how to not dilute it with human interaction and building that trust. Once again, we're back to that trust and how we rely on our emotion to make a decision followed by logic, right? So again, marketing's true purpose is to build connection. Our job as a marketer is to make sure you understand my product, my service, and why it would benefit you. Also, what separates me as your differentiator from the other company that's down the street or across town or across the country that says the same message as you. So that's what marketing is, right? And sales is for you to go, okay, I hear what this person's saying that they're marketing. Now, how do we get to the signature part, which is what sales is, what Darren does to help people get to that place. So you have to tell your story. Now is the time. So when you look at marketing ads, let's just use an example in real life example. So let me think of a good one here at the top of my head. Okay, so Netflix is a good example. Okay. So with Netflix, your AI recommendation shows up, right, for shows and movies, but it's not, but the magic isn't just about the algorithm. It's the human curation of understanding what makes a compelling story for them to offer these movies. So they are taking from your saved, what you watched last. So those are, again, data points from a human being that, they can't speak about the emotion, but they're seeing the theme of types of movies that they're looking at, right? So that helps with, so when you look at a recommended show by Netflix, it's typically kind of really in the type of movies or shows that you watch. Once in a while, they'll throw you off with something because you also threw it off with something, a documentary outside of comedy or, reality shows. Similarly with Sephora, people, when you go to Sephora, they have this AI virtual try on. Same thing with eyeglasses, right? Because it's an overwhelming decision to make. So how do you make it personalized for your audience so that they can get, how do you get the technology so that they can try on the products, right? With the try on technology, with the glasses, or even a shade of makeup or blush or lipstick. It's not on you, but it looks like it's on you. Then you can make a decision from there. So this technology solves a real world problem where you're overwhelmed by choices. So this is where technology becomes really helpful for a lot of companies. It makes the experience a little bit more tailored to them. So that, again, it's personalization and it's not creepy. There's a creepy type of AI that you use, which means you're monitoring what you're doing and the way you're delivering your message. And there's the how do you make a better experience? It's all about experiences for our audiences right now, because AI is not tangible, right? We talk about what AI can do, but we build it so that it can be tangible or be seen or touched by people through apps. Or in this experience, like I used for Sephora, it's like the experience having that look or seeing what they would like with all this makeup. So they're simplifying a complex process when you purchase something. So that's marketing, understanding what your buyers are looking for and being real with what they're giving them what they need that helps them or gives them that loyalty, that builds that loyalty. So again, if you're not tangible or you can't do the samples, or it frees up their people from coming into stores, or you don't have time to go into the store and line up for the next available person at Sephora to get you that right color, and then you try it on and wipe it off, that type of stuff. So it solves a couple of things for the organization. So look at things that way, where you're amplifying it as opposed to over rotating on AI, because then that's how it's built. So again, examples will be depending on again, Software knows its audience and the overwhelm that they get from that. So it's understanding your audience and how do you speak to that audience. Again, it's with authenticity, right? They're authentic about, hey, I know this is overwhelming for you, so here's a solution. Try it on and then come to the store and buy it, or order it online, even better. So a lot of complex.
I love that, right? So Darren, using that example, and you've talked before the idea around selling software and prototyping, right? Being able to show something. We joked a couple of weeks ago about the fact that you and I spent weeks working with people behind the scenes trying to build something to show a client what they might get in the future. And it still was, the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain trying to show it. Not that it wasn't authentic, it just wasn't built. We didn't have the ability on the fly back then to build stuff in the way that we did it. So when you talk about the sales voice, right, you've got potentially bots phoning and saying, hey, let's just get on a call, right? I'm introducing my company. I'd love to talk to you. Here's what we offer. And someone says, great. Then how do you pivot to make sure there's a human AI, human voice, a human connection from that AI interaction?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's really starting to be the kind of thing where, again, you have to have an understanding that AI is a tool. I mean, it's a technology. Don't get me wrong, but when you bottle up that genie into a tool, it's how to use it. So yeah, so when it comes to prototyping, authenticity, building trust, doing all of these things, it really is about learning how to manage it. Because when I do prototyping, so for example, when, like you said, like if I'm working with somebody, now let me define prototyping a little bit better, because obviously that's mock-ups, that's a proof of concept, that's a model. These are the kind of things that a prototype stands for. But if you're trying to do a mock-up to what we call in the sales game create some reality around what you're talking about. It's fascinating what you were able to do when it wasn't showing on the screen. That means you were doing it with verbal prototyping, right? You were painting a picture with your words.
I did.
Now, well, the cool thing about AI is you can paint a picture with your words, meaning talk to text. The reason why I taught you that is because you're painting a picture with your words and it's done instead of being 14 months. For marketing, same thing. I want an ad campaign and Daisy and I can be working with one of my clients and we can design an ad campaign in 24 hours. It's an accelerator. The brain part is us, right? So when we get into prototyping or mock-ups or proof of concepts, you can go to prototrack.ai, you can go to Lovable, you can go to all these different places, okay? But the skill of bringing it into the conversation is very human. It's just so human. It's just like, it's just you conversing and getting a connection with your person, your customer, and using AI to do a prototype. Now, the interesting thing about a prototype or a mock-up or an example is that if we used it more in technical sales, we would probably cut the sales cycles down to about half. I really believe that. And we have to do another show on that. But if you really think about, if you think about the book and you think about prototype and you think about mock-up, yeah, that's cool. That we've all done that. Yeah, have you? And then we get a little deeper into it and we say, but did you really show them what it could be in the future?
Right.
And you're like your deal. You got really well done because you're a great orator. But for a lot of people, they would want to see it. And if you can show them something that they can put their fingers into, then you'll get the signature. Just let them play with it. Let them. Can you send that to me in an email? Can I go online and look at that after I'm done with the phone talking to you? Can I spend some time with your prototype? Absolutely.
Can I try on your glasses? Can I play with that mascara? Can I go? The one that comes to mind now, can I go, what do you call it? Test drive the car?
Right.
Test drive the car? Yeah.
Right?
Before we sign anything, is it okay if I just drive this thing for 5 minutes? Oh, no, we got to get going. With AI, we got to shut up. You don't know how to get a signature to save your life. The key is that you got to put conscious competence around your sale now.
Right.
Because the conscious competence, which I talk about in the first book, conscious competence is something that everybody likes to talk about. But if you think about what you both do, like if you think about conscious competence about hiring for a salesperson, Shira, what would you be looking for? I mean, we all know about the bots and we all hate these things that scrub our resume. My daughter was in here with water, tears in her eyes going, they won't even look at me. I'm like, you're perfect for the job. Go down there. Well, I'm not allowed to do that.
Can't?
Yes, you go. So what would you teach a human how to hire another human to be a great salesperson?
Daisy said it earlier, right? How do you, when you're hiring in healthcare, right? I could have the best resume in the whole world and all the degrees and all the experience, but if I'm not going to have compassion for somebody, if I'm not going to have empathy, if I'm not going to be able to have a conversation, if I'm not, that's who we are. I think that's where the isolation comes in from a recruiting perspective, from an HR perspective. If all I'm doing is looking at words on a page, I'm not connecting. I'm not understanding who somebody is. I don't care how many metrics someone puts on their resume, because most people lie anyway, and that's fine, right? It's selling. When we're looking for a job, we're selling ourselves. But if we're not even able to have the conversation, then we're stuck, right? We're stuck. And I think that's really, with this hour has gone by so quickly. I can't believe it. We had so many things I wanted us to talk about. I do want to give, and Darren, you've been great at kind of flashing up our little banners and adding a little more context to everything. I want to make sure that everybody knows obviously how to reach us, how to connect with us individually. If you want to learn more, talk to us. We are very much about those human relationships and talking to everyone and saying, hey, let's talk about the struggles that you're having. Where are you stuck? What are you trying to make better? How do we help each other succeed? right? That's ultimately what it's about. We want to be able to do that well. Daisy, you want to talk a little bit about kind of how people can reach you as we
Sure.
close this up?
Yeah, just LumaPath.ai. That's where all the branding and how your business can be found by AI type of thing that I do. But overall, we do. I am a marketing agency that provides provide content for getting you ready for AEO as well. But I got 3 principles really quickly. Use AI for insights, not decisions, right? Let AI shift to the data, do the trends, do all that. That's what it's good for, right? Let it be your team as an interpreter for your findings and what information you get to make strategic decisions. Second, maintain a human brand voice. That means that AI can create the content, but it's a talent assisted type of author. You know what I mean? That's not your full author, because your final voice, your empathy, like you mentioned, and the uniqueness of your brand is what you're going to have to talk about. That's interjected by a human being, not AI. AI doesn't know your brand. And third, how to balance automation and the human touch points is what Shira's been talking about, what I've been talking about, what Darren's been talking about. Automate all you want, even and on the representative, but make sure that you have the ability to get that human touch point where I'm frustrated when they hit that 0, they're actually going to be connected with a human being. So everything has a human touch point. Use AI, use technology as much as you can, but always make sure that you are still addressing that you are selling and servicing a human being. So make sure you just have those. So just really high touch points. And those are high stakes situations as well if you don't do that. So the point is, where AI is a tool, but humanity is the point. Makes sense?
I love that.
Yeah.
I want that on a bumper sticker. Darren?
Do people still do bumper stickers?
I guess
Yeah,
why not?
Again, people can play these things back, find the URLs, whatever they need to do. But yeah, at Apex Advisory, we're really having a lot of fun in revenue operations, right? RevOps is what we call it. It's AI powered, it's AI native. There's a lot of convergence going on. And, I think about RevOps and I think about what you both do. And, it's, for me, it's always coming in and doing the little nuances that help drive revenue, right? And I love to do things like this. You were just talking, and I just remembered one of the things that I used to do when I was a VP of sales in a W-2 job. It was the recruiters. I used to go down to the recruiters and I used to say, hey, I am looking for somebody that's inquisitive, somebody this, somebody that. And I would give them the profile. And I said, I want you to find those people for me. And they say, well, this is the formula we have for the company. I'm like, yeah, it's not for my department. It's not for my team. Not only am I in a department, but I'm in a region. I have net new telecom, for example. And the other guys have, old existing accounts with Verizon for 20 years. Those are 2 different hires. So HR, I'm a fractional RevOps leader. Now, can you please get into the sales meeting and then get me some talent? Because that's one of my hacks is like, right. Oh, it's the sales guys. Oh, it's the system. What we do at Apex Advisors, we come in and we really break it all the way down to the signature. What does it take to get the signature? Well, you really need somebody that can talk about this, and this. Great. What's recruiting looking for? Oh, they're looking for somebody that the CEO really likes and went to school with. Yeah. And so, the thing about Apex Advisory is we're the guys that get things done. Don't bring us in if you need political. We're not your guys. But if you want a bunch of people that actually cut through all of your political red tape and get things done, we'll show you how to get the signature, and a lot of them.
I love it. I'll just close really quickly and let everyone know, obviously finding me is around the human element, right? Understanding how your humans have a place in the process and in the platforms and the businesses that exist. It's the difference, Darren, between a skill and a characteristic, right? You can teach a skill, you can't teach a characteristic. You can't get somebody to be somebody they're not. And AI can't help that either, right? It can enhance and it can really drive an enormous amount of value, but it's not going to change the human. from who they were. I want to thank you both again. I want to put it out there to anyone who's interested. Obviously, you can find us on LinkedIn and connect with us. I'd love to continue to build my network and meet new people. We would love to have people join our conversation. If there's a topic you want to talk about, if there's some expertise that you want to bring to the audience, please let us know. Message me on LinkedIn or on engage3p.com and just let me know. We'd love to have you on. We'll be back next week with another topic, and we'll announce that probably tomorrow or the next day. Let us know if there's something you want to hear us talk about. And thank you for joining us and for being here. And Darren and Daisy, yet again, it's always such a pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.